got started on the tail light panels. There's there's the old buckets cut out. These are the new ones, kind of just set in place. I'm probably going to set them, trying to decide how high I want to set them, and I probably won't know for sure until I get it glassed in and smooth, and then I cut a stencil out and lay it on there. So but yeah, the size, I just confirmed the size looks great. I mean, they're pretty much the same length as the old ones. They're just shorter. So gonna get this back up over here on the stands there and start glassing in the holes that was there. And then at the same time that's getting glassed in, these pieces will get taped up really good, and then I'll lay some fiberglass up on the back here with some mold release that I can pop it off and basically make a bucket that this sits in nice and tight. So I'm fixing to get started on. Continuing to work on the tail lights at the moment while I wait on some other things to go on the quarters. I had painted or marked off the two-tone right here on this line that flows from corner to corner, because that's where I thought I would have the contrasting color. And then I cut some red construction paper the exact shape of the lights to try and figure out exactly where I wanted the lights. And as I was working at it, I realized that I had intended to have this line here, the top of the light, parallel to this line here. But when I did that, it gave me a kind of a funny look on the bottom. And when I looked at the back more, I realized there's this line here. It kind of follows the spoiler. And if I take my black and move it up to there, then I can angle these lights up so that this line is mostly parallel to that line, and that gets this line parallel to this line, and this line is still mostly parallel to this one. And I think that's probably what's going to look the best. I may rotate it just a touch to make it a little more parallel with this line. But I think it's going to look pretty good like that. So I actually took a picture of it and marked it up on my iPad. I colored this little line in here black to match the bottom, and it looks really good if I do that. So that's where the lights are going to sit, and so I'm about to get that marked off, and then start working on a bucket to actually mount them. I got the first side cut out, checked it against the light. It's really close enough that I can finish it with a sanding block. And then I started thinking about how to make sure the other side matched. And so anything I do to make both sides symmetrical is based on the assumption that Factory 5 got the piece symmetrical. So I used a piece of paper, made a template of curve here, taped it down, cut it out, flipped it over, taped it down, and I'm getting ready to cut it out. So we'll see how it goes. It looks like it's going to be symmetrical enough that to the naked eye you won't be able to tell. If the curves aren't symmetrical side to side, then I'll have to adjust the curves to at least get an optical illusion that everything's symmetrical. So I've got to make a bucket to put these inside the tail. So my plan was to wrap it up real good with masking tape, and then wrap it up with packing tape, and then just lay fiberglass around it and basically form a bucket around it, and then pop it off and try to bond it into there. And I mentioned before that one of my favorite build series on YouTube was Fast Things GTM, and he made taillight buckets for custom taillights. So I thought to myself, I should go back and see what he did to see if there's a better way to do this. And I was probably about to make my life harder than it needed to be, so I'm glad I went back and watched. What he did was he made a plate that went along the back, and then he used cardboard to make a surround, so that he basically had a bucket that was bigger than his light that it slid into, and the bolt holes came through and bolted it in place. So probably a lot easier to do than trying to form something tight around this and then get it to pop off without cracking. So What I've got here is I've actually got the pieces that came out of right here where I cut that out, and so I've just used them to make a base. So I can do this one here. Yep, make a base. Put the 3 nuts on right there. That's all the wiring for the LED sticking out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this light, I'm going to tape it up real good with masking tape to make sure I don't get any fiberglass on the light. Then I'll put some packing tape on it just in case anything gets through. And then I'm going to build a cardboard shell around this base that sticks up past the light. And what I'll actually have it do is I'll have it come out about 3 or 4 inches past the light, the cardboard, and I'll make my fiberglass bucket longer than I need it to be. And then I'll be able to take it and slide it in here, because I know I've got to do a little bit of angling up and down. And so I'll get it in there, held in place. I'll angle it where I want it. I'll find a way to hold it at that angle, maybe some hot glue or something to hold it, while I'll lay some fiberglass on and let the fiberglass set up. And that way I'll know it's at the right angle. So fixing to tape these up and finish building this housing. These headlight buckets turned into a lot bigger project than I thought they were going to be. I was going to be a couple hour job and I was going to get back on the quarter panels, but I went up 11 o'clock last night laying the last layer of fiberglass on them. When Fast Thing made his buckets out of cardboard, he was doing an oval light. My light's trapezoidal in every direction, so it took a lot more work than I'd anticipated. So that's one made out of cardboard. I haven't removed the mold yet. Here's one I pulled out. So I'm going to clean it up a little bit and then cut the holes in the bottom and be ready to start fitting it. So get the other one out, trim it, and then get the other one out. So my original thought putting the headlight buckets in would be that I'd slide them in from the front until I got the light exactly where I wanted it, and I'd be able to angle it a little bit, and I'd hot glue it to tack it on the front, and I'd come around back and I'd glass it in and hold it exactly where I want it, and then I'd come trim the front and smooth it. The problem with that is that my buckets, you know, they're 1/8 of an inch thick, and they fit pretty good on the trapezoidal sides, but the curves, they're fairly big. And I've got this nice, tight, perfectly fit line already cut exactly where I want it. So what I decided to do was I want them to be recessed by the amount of that thickness, plus about double that thickness. So I used, you know, the fiberglass is translucent, so I stuck the bucket down in there and I could see where the light was. And the black line is exactly where the light sits. So I then came back and made the blue line, and I'm going to cut and preserve the blue line. And what that'll do is it'll give me the blue line thickness plus the thickness of that. Is going to be the offset when I put it in from the back. What I'll do is after I get it cut, I'll lay it face down like this, and come back and lay some fiberglass on a 90 all the way around it to create a flange. So I was going to make a full flange all the way around the light, but then I got to thinking that's got a little curvature to it, and there's no guarantee this is perfectly flat, so if I made a full flange it might not mate up. So instead I just made 2 little tabs and I've drilled a hole in it, and then I'm going to come over here and hold the light up, mark where I want the holes, drill a hole, bolt it in, and then these are thin tabs, so they're nice and flexible. So once I get it bolted in, then I'll be able to take some shims and get it positioned exactly like I want it, you know, kind of wiggled and rotated. And once I get it shimmed right where I want it, we'll throw some more fiberglass in and get it attached to the tail. Headlight buckets are temporarily bolted in, so now I just got to come back and lay glass all the way around the edge, hold it firmly in its place, and then I have to flip it over and glass in any gaps here on the front and smooth it all out. I knew there were going to be gaps because that light's not perfectly flat, and the tail panel is mostly flat. And that's why I had to recess it a little bit so that it wasn't so obvious. So yeah, I think that's going to work out really well. I'm happy with that. Looks good. All right, well, the headlight buckets are bonded in, and I've got the lights pushed in from the front. One of the things I'd failed to consider was that because of the shape of the lights, that they got so many slants, is that the hole has to actually be about a 1/16 inch, maybe a 1/4 inch bigger than the light for it to actually slide down. So I had to open up the top edge a tiny bit, but that's okay. So what I gotta do now is I just gotta come back with some peanut butter or some Bondo hair and just clean up the edge here so that you don't see any gaps, so that that stays solid, or looks solid all the way through, and can still come out. So may take a little bit of finessing with some sandpaper, but I get it done. I'm fixing to mask the lights back up, drop them in there, put the Bondo hair up in there, let it get not hard, just gel, and I'll use a razor to trim right around the edge of the light and push the light out. Hopefully I'll be in good shape from there. Overall, not a bad weekend. I got the passenger's quarter panel, what I call roughed in. I mean, it's not ready for paint, but it's as ready as any of the other factory 5 fiberglass is. So it's modified. It's mounted on the car. The other one's back on the car because that allowed me to mount the rear tail panel on the car, which now has the tail lights are now like the scoops. They're roughed in, they're modified. They're nowhere near finished or ready for paint. I've still got finish work up in here to do, and I gotta get everything blended, and I still gotta fill the holes where I bolted the bucket in. But getting it on allows me to do a couple of things. I'm still working on the duct for the plenum for the top mount intercooler, but I can now look at how the trunk package goes in, because I got the trunk package recently, and then figure out what I want to do with exhaust, because it's too loud for me like it is. You know, I mean, if it was a race car, it'd be fine, but I'm going to drive it on the street, so I now know what my limitations for space are on exhaust. I'm going to try and figure out what to do with exhaust, figure out how the trunk package goes in, keep working on this, and then the next panel, I guess, the next thing that goes on is the trunk lid, so I'll put that on. It's probably one of the few panels I won't modify. But then I got 2 places I can go, kind of have to go, probably do them at the same time given how long I spend waiting around. But the piece here that covers the engine, I'm modifying because I want to make a target top, and it doesn't come all the way up. I think it only comes up to about here. It doesn't come up high enough for the roof to meet to, so I'll have to modify that to come up higher to meet the roof. And then the doors have to go on. I ordered the side glass from Factory 5 that goes in the coupe, so the doors have to go on. And I gotta put the glass in, and I gotta see, I don't have the coupe windshield. I've got the Roadster windshield because the coupe windshield goes in the full coupe, but I don't want the full coupe. So I gotta figure out how to make the glass mate to the windshield. And then I also gotta figure out what I'm gonna do back here. Whatever cover I bring up to meet the roof, I'll also have to bring around to meet the window. So I've been trying to tackle small things, and perhaps I will not tackle the roof next. Perhaps once I get that on and get this in and the doors on and I look at it, I'll decide, you know what, I better move on to the fender and the nose and the hood, because that would be working, I think, from smallest to biggest. Actually, I thought the quarter panels were going to be the smallest job. I think the tail lights were easier than the quarter panels. But tail lights, quarter panels, and then the nose with the light modifications and the nose modifications, and the hood. Probably the hood is easier than the fenders and the nose, but I don't think I can do the hood till I get the fenders and the nose done. So going in order of difficulty, the next thing I need to do is put on the fenders and the nose. But I can't put on the fenders and the nose to let the doors on to get everything to line up. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this stuff on here because I know there's stuff I need to do, like figure out how it's gonna latch, because I don't want to use hood pins. I'll go ahead and I need to make a brace. Most people make a brace that kind of runs across the middle here to support the interface of those two panels so that it doesn't sag. So yeah, the trunk and the engine cover are going to get put on next, and I'm going to start thinking about modifying the engine cover, but I can't modify it until I've got the doors and the windows on. And then I may decide I'm not ready for that, because that's probably going to be the single hardest piece to modify is that one. So once the doors are on, I may go ahead to the fenders and the nose. You just have to see how I feel. Probably at least a month away, I would think. Probably gonna go ahead and get the tail lights wired up. That way when I'm driving this thing around the neighborhood and stuff, I've actually got brake lights and blinkers. I'm sure the police will be happy about that. And plus that's something I can do with the air conditioning. And if my advice to anybody who wants to build a kit car is don't do your body work in August. It's 102 degrees without the humidity. And so when you're sanding and doing body work, you're just sweating all over everything, and can't get your body filler to stick because they're sweating away. So it sucks. I'll be able to do be able to wire up the lights back here and work on the exhaust. I'll be able to do all that in the air conditioning inside. So we'll see. It's a good weekend. I'm happy with where I'm at. It actually looks something like a car now. So it's got 3 sides, or 2, you know, 1 side and 2 3/4 sides. Comes up to 2.5. So anyway, that's probably gonna do it for this video. I'm about to wrap up for the weekend, and we'll make another one next week.